Hey everybody, this is Morgan Rauscher coming back to you with another interview. This time we've got Mitch Altman with us, who needs no introduction. He's definitely one of the leading figures in the entire maker movement, and so today we're going to ask him a few questions and see what's on his mind. So I guess, yeah, very nice to have you. Thank you. First question is, what is a mind machine? It's like if you had to tell someone for the first time, what is this thing?
I've been playing with with brainwave stuff for a long time, and as an undergrad, I was a guinea pig for brainwave experiments in physiological psych lab at the University of Illinois. There's a lot of cutting edge stuff going on back then, but I've been fascinated with it. And one day I woke up wondering. Actually, I was meditating, and I just had this flash, wondering what would it be like if you could play back brainwave recordings into somebody. And of course, there's invasive ways of doing this. You can have implants in your brain that would, most people wouldn't like that anyways. I don't think I would. We can record brainwaves, and people have been doing that for decades. But what would it be like if you could play them back? Would people experience what the original brainwaves were all about, or would it just be weird? Would it do nothing? I don't know. So it came in a flash that, well, if you could record brainwaves and sort of simplify them and then play them back with light and with sound, it'd be a really easy, non-invasive way to try this. And I started doing research, and I saw that there are a lot of people that have actually done this for decades, and they call them sound and light machines, brain machines, mind machines, whatever. So, and when you go from, let's say, awake to asleep, people are all unique, but in general, people go through the same brainwave sequence. From higher brainwave frequencies and some lower ones and then lower ones, and eventually you're asleep, and there's a signature for brainwaves when you're asleep, and you go through these sleep cycles. Likewise, if you go from awake to meditation, there's signature brainwaves. If we could go through those sequence of brainwaves and play them back with light and sound, would that help people like fall asleep or go into a meditative state? And it turns out for a lot of people, the answer seems to be yes. There's been some studies on this in a more scientific way, but there's been a lot of people playing with it. I don't have really the time or wherewithal.
It's kind of amazing that more. I also have done a bit of research into the actual science and at what eras were some psychologists or neurologists interested in actually looking at this? And it's dime a dozen. Or sorry, it's few and far between is the right phrase. It's really not too many. Why does this machine cause a person, in some instances, to hallucinate?
Well, no one really knows. The first person to really comment on this is named Ganzfeld, so they call it a Ganzfeld effect.
I love that too. The first one to say how it works gets to have the name.
Yeah, and they didn't really say how it works, but they at least noticed it and they gave it a name. So, there's certainly something physiological going on because there's so many similarities between people. But, the thing is, what I discovered when I was helping create virtual reality back in the 1980s is that what brains seem to do is make things real. So if something doesn't really make sense, we're trying to find patterns and correlate it with past experience so that it makes some sort of sense to us. And when we're presenting brainwave information, which is normally happening internally in our brains, and present them externally, our visual system, if we're doing it with blinking lights, our visual system doesn't really know what's going on, and so it kind of makes stuff up.
Right.
You have bright blinking lights that can be red or whatever color. Your brain doesn't know how to deal with that, so it draws from past experience. People who are totally geeky tend to see Mandelbrot sets, fractals. People who are more artistically inclined might see some abstract art, or people who are into more early stuff from Europe might see mandalas,
Right.
and people who aren't geeky at all might just see kaleidoscopes, because most people have seen a kaleidoscope.
So you see kind of like what your brain would expect this weird thing to be, or tries to see something that it recognizes despite the intensity. Yeah, I feel that too. I feel as though the brain is trying to balance out the situation in a way, and really, find some meaning. That's absolutely great. I mean, one question I wanted to ask you was, okay, so you can get stroboscopic effect with the lights, and you can get binaural beats in the ears with the sound, and I've even experimented with vibrotactile, two little vibration motors, and it also causes effect. It takes a little longer, and you've got to be a little bit more focused. But do you think things like radio waves, kind of in the right sort of, let's say, emission pattern could do something as well, or maybe that in the subconscious level, or in some way that we don't know of, or what do you think about that?
Well, certainly these things have an effect. Whether they're positive or not is in question, but a lot of people have been experimenting with TCDS, is that what it is? Transcranial direct stimulation, and also magnetic, and having a lot of interesting results with that. People claim that they can focus better if they do it in the right way. Others claim they also have people with symptoms of depression being alleviated. And so for me, that seems a bit too invasive.
It doesn't it though, right? Because at least the other is like external senses, and you can take the glasses off. But if I had like some kind of radio transmitter sitting right next to me, on one side and then on the other, and I was doing something, I mean, I've always just wondered if that would. I just have this, because there are some researchers who have been working on, for example, telepathic possibilities, and so they have. Generated these magnetic fields, basically identical magnetic fields around two subjects, and then they at a certain time in the experiment, 30 minutes in, whatever, they turns on a light, and both subjects answer the question, what happened at 30 minutes? A light went off, even though only one of them in one room had this. And so I've always felt like there's got to be some way of combining the mind machine and with some other methods, and maybe you could achieve some sort of communication device. I don't know, like I mean, that's probably way out there, but I don't know.
Well, it's worth playing with. I mean, if you're doing, there's some people who have taken brain machine that I just did it as a fun thing and just put it out as open source, and it's online. Anyone can make their own. So there have been people who have done it in groups. So you have like 15 of these things, and everyone is experiencing the same exact blinking lights and sound together.
Oh, interesting.
Going through the same experience externally.
Right.
And what are the similarities internally for all these people?
Oh, fascinating.
So, I think it'd be worth doing it, and especially like if there's some kind of guided meditation that goes along with that.
Right.
Is there something interesting that we could induce in a group this way?
Right. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess I've always wondered if there's a connection between the work that you do, and so, I mean, I wanted to ask you about TV. I wanted to ask you, is TV a mind machine? I mean...
Yes.
It is a mind machine. Yeah, because, okay.
But it's not one there for our benefit.
Right, okay.
It's not there for anyone's benefit. It's just there for, like getting more power and money for the people who make the content. And, that's not necessarily anyone's benefit.
Well, is this why you made the TV be gone? Like, I was always curious. Like, you see it a lot, and it's everywhere, and but I haven't heard you ever say, much about, like, give me the reason. Is it because it's obvious why? I mean, we're turning off TVs everywhere. What was the sparking moment for you that caused you to want to make this thing?
Well, the first half of my life, I was totally depressed, and I tried to escape my terrible childhood by watching TV all the time. And while I was watching, I could forget that my life was terrible. But then I would have to eventually stop watching, And then I was in a worse place than I was before because not only did I waste all of that time just staring at a screen, pretty much drooling, but I wasn't doing anything positive,
Right.
like getting exercise or practicing playing with other kids or doing something that I might actually enjoy. So I'm a total TV addict.
Right.
To this day, I'm still a TV addict, but I got rid of TV way back when. In 1980, I haven't watched TV really since, except long enough to turn it off. And when they started popping up all over in public places, I couldn't do anything about that.
Right, it's just there.
Apartment, get rid of it, but in public places. But I'm a geek, so I knew I could send off codes from all the remote controls at ones in public and turn those things off. So I did. And I was in a restaurant with some friends a long time ago, and we didn't go there to watch TV. We went there to have a great conversation and catch up over food. That's what people kind of do when they get together, right? But we weren't, because there was a TV on, and the sound wasn't even on, but we were all staring at the thing, all of us. And we kept not... I kept telling myself, don't do that, I'm not here for the TV, but I kept doing it anyways. I couldn't help myself, and so we started talking about that, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could just get rid of these distractions everywhere I went, and then it struck me that I could.
Wow.
So that was the beginning of TV Beyond.
So just as an encouragement for all of the sort of people who are new to technology and trying to hack their way into making solutions happen, and that seems like whenever you're working with something, which ends up being epic and all over the internet, it seems like it starts with the concept, and then you make the technology do what you want it to do.
Technology, it's a lot of fun. You can play with it just for its own sake, but it doesn't come from a vacuum. Our ideas, where do ideas come from? From the people around us, from our own experiences in the past, all this subconscious stuff. People quite often say that the ideas just came to them, and it's not even that they have any say in the matter. It's just that idea's there, and now they're sort of a vehicle for making it happen. Whatever it is, once you get an idea, then what do you do with it? Most people, I think, just sort of go, wow, that's a cool idea.
They ignore it.
From it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, but if some of those ideas though keep eating away at you, and eventually you have to help it come out.
Right.
And I think that's what happens with all great artists. And there's an idea and it's an expression they must express.
Right.
And TV Gone was definitely that for me. It was eating away at me, and eventually I had to make time to make it come out, help it come out.
Amazing.
Could, so that it could come out.
It's great.
I'll clean it up. Don't worry about it. Okay.
So I wanted to share with you. Really quickly a small story, and basically it's what got me interested into electronics. So I want to ask you a question out of it, but and see how you feel. But so when I was a little kid, there was an uncle who came over to stay with us. Uncle Hal, and he'd always go down to the basement, right? And he's always in the basement. Big man, 6 foot something, and walked really quiet, really strange character. Watches cartoons while eating cereal with juice, in it and stuff like that. It's just like we were always fascinated by Uncle Hal, But he's always down in the basement. I was really scared of the basement, because I was only, 9 years old, and maybe that's too old to be scared of the basement, but still I was. And so the one time I went down there, though, I found him hunched over what looked like just a collection of all kinds of little bits and stuff like that. And I learned later he was actually putting together his own television because he wanted to design something. And he showed me how a motor worked, and as soon as I saw a battery connect to this motor, and the motor started spinning, and it was like there was some invisible thing making this thing work. Like pretty much from that day until today, I have been completely consumed with trying to understand electromagnetism. And I feel like there were these moments in history, probably the late 50s and then into the 60s, and then kind of skips a little bit, and then the 70s, 80s. It kind of tapers off when the 90s comes along, where these maker movements get pushed into existence. And I feel like he came and passed, kind of the baton from his, generation of it. I'm just wondering, like, how you feel about this maker movement in comparison to those that came along.
Yeah, well, it's constantly evolving. In a long time ago, there were all these magazines and little clubs, and high schools had clubs, and colleges for people to come together and play with radio or play with television later, or just electronics in general. As more and more inexpensive consumer electronics came along, these things became super, super inexpensive just to buy, and there was less interest for people to make it. Also, the tools and the materials for making it were kind of too complicated for a lot of people to do themselves. But then as it got even more and more inexpensive, then the modules themselves became materials that people could do all these amazing things with. And then people could start actually making computers. So like the Homebrew Computer Club back in the 80s in Silicon Valley, these are a whole bunch of people who were interested in using these modules for making their own computers. And, the first early computer chips were available. And so they found that pooling their resources together, they could do something that they really couldn't do so much on their own. But that was sort of, just a few geeks. Out of that, of course, Steve Wozniak put out into the world the Apple II, and Steve Jobs took that and ran with it just so he could make a lot of money, and closed it all off. He couldn't have access to the later Apples. But still, there was a whole bunch of stuff happening along these lines. And the internet starts happening in the 90s, and then a whole bunch of people who are doing this, individually or in small groups, see that, wow, there's a whole world of people doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that started connecting people. People knew they existed, and people are putting things about how to hack these different modules, whether they're whole systems. You can take this out of a radio, you can take this out of a camera, you can take this out of a microwave oven, whatever. Stuff that might have been garbage, and make it into something really cool and useful, and sharing that with other people. And this is the world of hacking that we know and love today. And then Make Magazine came along in 2005 and had a new magazine, sort of a rebirth of these magazines back from the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, and bringing together people in sort of this virtual community through the magazine. And the guy who started it, Dale Doherty, thought, oh, we should do this in person because community is much better in person. And then he started Maker Fairs.
Right.
At the same time, the Chaos Computer Club over in Germany is pushing for people to come together in groups in the form of hacker spaces where people can share and learn and teach all these cool things with all these different tools that are available in each space, each one unique, but each one helping each other.
Right.
And all this happened at around the same time in 2006, and these huge hacker conferences were also starting to grow then. And that was really the beginning of all of this stuff. And now we have in the world not only zillions of websites all over the internet, but zillions of hacker conferences and mini maker fairs,
right,
and all of these kind of things. And there's over 2,000 hacker spaces in the world and growing fast.
Amazing.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I go all over the world giving talks and workshops at all these places, and it's just tons of fun. And since it's so enjoyable, more and more people are attracted to it, and more people are creating more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's way different now, but this is all the result of the stuff that came earlier.
Sure, and it seems like there's, I don't want to say a tension, but maybe a kind of a ping-pong game that goes on between the DIY guy in the garage, innovating, and the industry, which then, maybe sometimes picks up things from that but never credits, or there's kind of an exchange of ideas going back and forth between, the industrial application, for example, with a computer is a great example, of course, of all this mega narrative. But then there's a ton of smaller innovations. And I just wonder if you feel that eventually, if not already, the DIY community can have a more formal acknowledgement or recognition by kind of the mainstream, if you will, of technological development.
Yeah, well, as this has been growing, it's everyone has heard about it, and governments, municipal, like cities, and also like all of China, the national government's pushing this kind of stuff. So in many ways, it already really is very mainstream.
It's becoming,
But that's happening at the same time that there's also very much smaller groups doing things in their own alternative ways. So all this together, I think, is very promising for some positive things to grow from it.
Yeah.
So, what we've seen at Hackerspaces is a lot of people benefit from it in so many ways. I mean, the main thing is that there's all these people in communities supporting each other and exploring and doing things that they really love doing. So people are spending more time doing stuff they really like rather than whatever else they might
having a creative outlet for all those awesome ideas. Maybe the reason why initially a lot of the awesome ideas would just pass is because one can't imagine an environment where they would actually execute the ideas, and now you have this amazing space happening. And but I feel like a part of the major element of DIY, or let's say one of the big sisters or coexisting ideas, is that of open source. And I wanted to ask you, I mean, does open source subvert knowledge capital altogether, or is it, what are the elements of it? Can it work hand in hand with capitalism in general? I mean, what do you think about open source?
Yeah, well, I'm a big proponent of open source. I don't think it has anything to do with being against or for capitalism. People can use anything for anything they want, right? So open source, though, definitely makes people more money than without it, which is kind of ironic from the way most people initially think about it. Open source means all the plans that anyone can use to make their own version of the thing is just available for free, or not necessarily for free, but just available, usually for free. And so like my product, TVD Gone, which is pretty much the only way I've made money in the last 11 years, is open source. Originally, back when I created it in 2003, I patented it because that's what inventors do, right? You come up with an idea and you patent it.
Right.
And a patent basically says, stay away from my idea, it's mine. And if you come near it, I'll sue your ass. But that kind of worked for some people for some length of time. But the world has been changing very much. All ideas come from past ideas mixed together with current experience or whatever. Like
and the mystery inspiration.
Yeah, so the inspiration comes from somewhere, but it's not just from a vacuum. It's not totally unique without the help and benefit from zillions of people that lived before us. So anyways, coming up with these ideas, you do it, and if it's at all popular, it will be copied very quickly nowadays.
So it's speeding up the process of copying.
Very much, and so rather than try to keep people away, I think it's much easier just to totally open up and then say, here's my ideas. This is what I came up with. I worked on this for all this time. But if you use these things, give me credit, and you must share it as open. And then when they copy it, if they just do a direct copy, they'll do it well rather than poorly. And hopefully what it will do is help other people innovate on that idea.
Right.
Then they share those innovations back with the original people and the world.
Right.
So the original people benefit from it, and the world does, and more innovation grows much more quickly as a result.
Right.
And because the original people are getting the benefit, they get better products, so they can make more money. More people find out about it because there's enthusiastic people sharing all of this with everyone. So more people find out about it, and that's PR that the original person wouldn't have been able to afford. And all of this certainly happened for me with DVD Gone, because I'm just a small company. So, bye, Karen. Have a good day at work. It's in the morning over here.
Yeah.
My hopes.
Same. Excellent.
So, and so I was able to get engineering work from people who are excited about my project, who are sharing their ideas with me, and my project and my product benefited from that. Plus, all these people who made their own and using my name, and more people found out about my project, my product, and some people made it on their own. I don't get a cent from that, but they again shared it enthusiastically,
right.
And more people found out about me. More people bought it, and more people are turning TVs off in public places.
Right.
In the world, places for everyone. So everyone wins.
It's excellent. It's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I only have a couple more questions. One of them has to do with making technology. So I feel like we have access now to things like 3D printers and CNC machines and like all these wild technologies. Even 3D rendering things, and it's relatively new. I mean, I realize. For the younger audience, it's going to seem like it's been around since the Stone Age, but it actually just arrived on the scene, like the internet, which a lot of us watched, come into existence. Do you feel like those kind of technologies, are introducing, like things like Arduino? Is it introducing a level of prescriptive creativity, or are they modular enough that they can help us out? Or what are the pros and cons to this kind of technology that we're having access to in the maker world?
Yeah, well, that's always a good question. You say, is it prescriptive or is it helping innovation? It's both, So what we do with any technology that comes along is up to us. And there's positives and negatives with everything. So I like focusing on technologies that I see as having more possibilities for positive change for individuals and our society, rather than focusing on ones that are just cool in and of themselves that maybe can be used for making the world a worse place.
Right.
And there's plenty of examples of technologies that have made our lives better and worse, and I think preponderous negativity has resulted from some of these. And like TV, for instance, has positive and negative aspects. There's many, many positive things about TV. And, it's entertaining. It can be a fantastic learning device if the content is there, and sometimes it is. It can be an amazing way for some people to share ideas with the mass market. But because of that, it's been used for people to manipulate others so that they buy things they don't even necessarily want or need. It's way, and those products can be goods and services. They can also be political candidates, and the result is this stupid stuff that's been going on for the last year and a half, and it's still almost a year away for the election coming up in my country, the United States. It's all noise, and what's it being used for? And certainly not for the benefit of any of the voters or the citizens. Anyways, so that's my perspective on that. Arduino, on the other hand, it's also a powerful tool. Not as powerful because it's not getting the sight and the sound of millions of people all at once, but still, it's a very, very simple device that makes it very fun and not intimidating to learn about how to use leadership for your own projects, whether it's art or craft or turning TVs off or whatever, blinking lights, flying machines, robots, silly things like making toilets tweet when they flush, whatever. You can do just about anything you can think of with an Arduino, and it's all open source, so people have been innovating and sharing ideas with it, and just about any idea you can come up with, there's probably already a project online that does it or something similar.
Right.
And with just spending a few hours, you can learn enough to play with these things and do amazing things.
Right.
So, and that's just like one thing out of zillions that have been coming around in the realm of electronics. And now in hackerspaces around the world, there's also do-it-yourself, do-it-together biology. And that's kind of scary for a lot of people, but the possibilities for something positive are also there as well. If it's only in the hands of huge corporations doing it only for maximizing their profit, I think the possibility for negativity is much greater than if it's in the hands of a whole bunch of people who are doing it because they're excited about it and they love doing this stuff. So I would love to see more people encouraging each other to continue to explore not only those two realms, but in art and craft and whatever else comes along that we don't even know about yet.
Right. Yeah, that's my hope anyway. That's why I'm doing this research, trying to make new making machine, that allows people to kind of do some things with it. So hopefully that. You got a chance to see the video? Did you think it was all right? I mean,
yeah, it's great stuff.
Okay. Well, so just for all the listeners, where are you based now, and are there some projects you want to let people know about and how they can get involved?
I live in San Francisco, but that's more and more becoming a home base because I've been traveling around the world so much, doing talks and workshops. Yesterday I was in Berlin, and before that I was in a huge annual hacker conference in Hamburg, Germany, Chaos Communications Congress. If anyone has any interest in this kind of stuff at all, please see what you can do to get to that. It happens every year at the end of December. It's really amazing. And I help organize a hardware hacking area there where I give workshops and sort of a lot of other people. It's really just an amazing group of people sharing stuff. So, but that's just one of the things I do. Before that, I was in China helping people there set up hackerspaces, and the government there is like pushing hackerspaces as the future of China in a big way. There's going to be like thousands there soon. It's really kind of awesome. And then I've been thinking of and finally getting together, for my workshops, I have a whole bunch of open source hardware kits that people can learn to solder with. And, anyone can learn to solder. I've taught like tens of thousands of people to do that, and that's one of the workshops I do, as well as Arduino workshops. It's really fun, and so little kids up to big people, whatever. And so I've got like 25 different kits, anywhere from blinky lights and noisemakers and cool things. Of course, the Brain Machine and TV Be Gone.
My favorite.
I've been working on a new one, which is an Arduino-compatible music synthesizer kit that should cost about $25. And I've been playing with sound and digital signal processing a long time, so I can pull some kind of cool, easy tricks to get really good sound out of the inexpensive computer chip in an Arduino. And so anyone can solder it together and it'll work, but if they want to learn more, they can look at the really well-documented Arduino library and download new modules and make cool noises and music, and learn the basics of digital signal processing for audio. So right now I don't have it online, but I'm ordering the boards before Chinese New Year's, which is coming around the corner. And once I have a working version, then I'm going to put it on my GitHub, which is Maltman23, and then anyone can play with it. And I should have kits available at my workshops, and maybe if people like them, I can make them available online.
Great. That's really great. Well, I thank you so much for your time today in the interview. It was an honor to meet you. Finally, after all these years, I've been mentioning you in my video for at least, I counted it, about 8 years now. So it's about time we got together. So
and we can meet in person somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. That would be really, really great. That'd be really, really great.